Much of the propaganda that was against Hitler from our side after we were in the war, of course, portrayed him as a beast. But remember two things. Hitler never had a bodyguard. He had military around him, but he never carried bodyguards around with him like every president in the United States does, particularly in the last two administrations. And number two, when he went anywhere in Germany, the children all ran up to him. They actually loved him. And children have a way of knowing psychically when somebody is evil. Now, if they didn't shun him and they ran up to him on a regular basis, you cannot stage manage this all the time. You can stage manage it perhaps a good part of the time. But all of the newsreels are there as testimony. He went all over Germany, sometimes very much alone, without bodyguards, would hike in the mountains alone. If that man was so evil and so hated, why did the German people not attack him?
Very similar to the way Russian children would rush to Stalin and shower him with flowers and kisses and hugs. It's an interesting way of how a totalitarian country can manipulate its population and through propaganda can paint a picture of a person being the father of a nation.
True, and he was, in the case of Hitler, he was considered not only the Führer, the leader, he was considered in many respects the father of the new nation, the Third Reich, and that he had made many promises and he kept them all, namely guns and butter. He would pull the nation out of the poverty it had been in, rebuild the nation, rearm it. He did all of these things. Regardless of how he did them, he did them. And regardless of the concentration camps, the people who were dissidents, he did reunify Germany and keep his promises. And he also kept another basic promise, which was the reason why he achieved power in the first place, was he promised to throw all of the Bolsheviks and all of the communists out of Germany, and he did. They were threatening to take over Germany in 1928-29. There was a very serious movement, a communist movement in Germany at that time before he acceded to full power. He was in a semi-full power from 1930 on, but when the burning of the Reichstag, and he became...
which actually was ignited on trial in Leipzig for the burning down of the Reichstag.
That part I wouldn't know.
That's another long story.
Right.
Other than the Bulgarian involvement, as usual, in not only the killing of the Pope and burning of the Reichstag, but in other famous espionage affairs in Europe. I would like you to comment if you have any information about particular extraterrestrial race involvement with the Germans. I've heard about crash saucers in Peenemünde or elsewhere in the Bavarian Alps. I've heard about some races coming and getting disillusioned and going from Germany.
Well, there's a great deal of information, and Billy Myers is a source of quite a bit of it, that the Plejadians approached Hitler, a specific group of Plejadians, approached Hitler in 1933-34, and eventually, after first approaching the U.S. and being rejected by Roosevelt, they went to Germany, made a deal with Hitler to provide him with technology and help build up the nation. And their price and requirement was that he would take a very easy stand and no rough stuff in handling the Jewish problem, which he said, we know you have, but he says there'll be no rough stuff. Now, Hitler in that day readily agreed to it, because history shows that in the period up through 1940-41, there was no rough treatment of the Jewish and other dissidents in the concentration camps. In fact, they were treated quite well.
And that there were plans to repatriate all of them to Madagascar, that island south of.
Right, there was that plan, and of course the Madagascarans apparently rejected it. They wanted no part of it. But in any case, there were plans to do this. The National Socialist Party, in the period prior to World War II, did not and could not conceive of a massacre of the Jewish people. They knew it was a problem, they wanted to get rid of them, but they didn't know how to do it, and it was an endless debate. But quite aside from this, the Plejadians said they would provide them with technology, and there was the rumor and the story of a crash saucer that came down in the Bavarian Alps in sometime in late 1935, which was a source of a lot of German technology. Now, this story has been repeated many times by people who came from Peenemünde who found the wreckage of a UFO in Germany after the war was over.
In the same place or at Peenemünde?
At Peenemünde.
So this is the second fact.
I don't know if it's the second one or not. But they found the parts and pieces for it, and they knew that the Germans had some kind of outside help. Now, from what I understand, the operation with the Plejadians, they provided some personnel also, went ahead, they developed fast new technologies, and they moved very rapidly in developing their own technology and some highly advanced technology, which included circular foil aircraft, which started to show up in the research areas in 1937-38, were actually being built as early as 1939, replicas of the Plejadian craft, but not with the Plejadian drive. What I understand, they never did solve the Plejadian drive system, but developed their own. Victor Schaumburger, who is well known for his contributions technically to the flying saucer, circular foil aircraft, if you will, technology, is known throughout the world for his aircraft designs and the circular foil aircraft designs. Eventually developed a true electromagnetic anti-gravity drive, and this came in the latter part of the war. But this one basically all stems from the Plejadian giving of technology to Germany and a lot of other ideas. How much was given, we don't really know. But I understand that about 1941, for whatever reason, the Plejadians pulled out. They would no longer support Hitler. And in its stead came via, the information came via a respected channel that I know of, and I do not mean a metaphysical channel, but a very physical, real channel, an ex-agent of the government, U.S., who knew Germans during the period right after World War II, and they used to tell the stories about how the Greys made a deal with Hitler, the little 3.5-foot Greys, allegedly, and gave him technology, and they wanted humans to experiment on. And the stories are that Hitler told them, he says, you can't have any of the Germans, the Aryans, but he says you can take all the people you want out of the concentration camps. I don't give a hoot about them. And they did. I am told that there was a large discrepancy in count between the records of those who went into the camps, those who came out alive, those who were there dead, in which they had skull bones and other evidence of who had died there. There was still a large number unaccounted for. What percentage, I don't know. It may well be that the Greys took some of them out of the camps for their own genetic experimentations under Germany. The second largest area of Grey invasion is in Europe. The primary area is in the U.S. But this is just another side issue.
I've been thinking about this crash landing of UFOs when an alien nation wants to establish contact with a particular planetary race. It has many functions to it. For example, when a disabled UFO is left in the middle of a field, it is like a huge dead bear being found in the middle of or a dead bee is being found in the middle of a primitive village on the morning. People are afraid of it, but eventually they overcome their fear. They start dancing over it, and little by little they develop their stories of how to fight these beasts. So my feeling is that these are all engineered crashes, and these are old surplus ships that are left on the planet for the locals to explore and to slowly get over the fear. If it is a live UFO with live aliens coming out of it, it would be a panic similar to what Orson Welles caused with his dramatization of The War of the Worlds. Another interesting detail here is that many times the aliens conclude a treaty with a government, but with the very top echelon. Less than probably 10 or 20 people in the whole country know that there is a treaty with aliens, and that information is being transferred from their civilization to ours. And so crash landing of a UFO is an interesting explanation for the lower echelons of the engineers and the military of this sudden explosion of new ideas, new solutions that come literally out of nowhere, as we have all seen. And especially I was astonished myself in my research of the last year, starting very skeptically to research the rumors of German UFOs, and only in 1 year discovering more than 50, 60 different models of flying
craft